welcome back, Bears fans, to this Friday edition of the CHGO Bears Podcast. It is CHGO Audible Day, and it's your weekly in-depth game preview hosted by yours truly, Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano here to break down all of the action between two backup quarterbacks here on Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a great episode. We're going to have a lot of fun throughout its entirety. But, Nick, how's it going, man?
Good, Will. If you notice in the backdrop is a lot of Spider-Man memorabilia, everything Spider-Man. Have not actually downloaded the new game. I'm not doing it until I beat God of War. So it's really tough for me because, as you know, I love my Spider-Man. I actually talked to Kyler Gordon yesterday. Well, the Spider-Man of the Bears team, he's going to get the game. He probably already has it, wants to play it, but he has to beat the other Miles Morales version. And I'm like him. I got to beat another game so I can play this, but I'm really excited about this video game right now.
How long have you been playing the other one now? You're playing that back in the joint practices, weren't you?
Yeah, like it's
wow.
One, I mean, once the season starts, like it's very few times I actually get to play it, but it's just a long story. I think I put like 37 hours into this thing and I'm still going.
Damn. Awesome. Well, hopefully you get done soon so you can play the Spider-Man. One other thing about the Spider-Man game, and then I'm actually going to talk about Chicago Bears football, is did you see the fast travel in that game?
I know. Yeah.
It's nuts. Anywhere, anytime in the entire city, you just click it on the map, you zoom in, you start swinging immediately in real time. No loading required. We're living in the future, Nick.
Yes, we are. Hopefully the Bears can get to the future and, hopefully it'll be a little bit more positive there.
The Bears make me want to think about the future because the present it's nothing to write home about. It's pretty much the same boat we've been in for years. And yeah, hopefully the future is brighter and we can get to that stage. But at the same time, we're going to have to get there in due time. But it's good to be back behind the mic, be here with you to preview this Bears game. And of course, this is our in-depth weekly game preview show. This is where we give our keys to success on both sides of the ball, determine who has the edge, share some X factors, bold predictions, and a whole lot more. Definitely participate here in the chat. Love seeing everyone already here. Matt Nagy. I saw Brandon's here. I almost said Nick's name because he popped up. Mubs. It is exciting times indeed. So let's go ahead and jump right into the show and start with our offensive keys. And Nick, I'm going to defer here right now. So I'll go to you. What's your first key for the Chicago Bears on offense?
Well, with Tyson Bagent playing, the first key is, really just kind of let the playbook be the playbook and just execute to the best of your ability. So execute. And I know that's something that we hear so often with Luke Getsy, Matt Eberflus, everybody that you talk to on this Bears team. But for Tyson Bagent, just to play within himself. Obviously, he's someone that really goes in. His confidence is because of how he prepares for each matchup. So I think when the game plan gets set out, drawn out, and put into place here, Tyson's going to have a good grasp of what's going to go on, but it's just about executing the little things, getting the ball out on time, getting the ball out quick, and just, like I said, play within himself. Don't try to do anything more, because I think if you can play a clean football game, look, the Raiders are nothing to write home about, right? They're a 3-3 football team that has had its struggles, in itself this season. But I think for Tyson Bagent, just do your job, right? To steal it from Bill Belichick, do your job. And, I think there can be some positives on offense if you can do just that.
Well, I think it's okay that you stole from Bill Belichick. I'm sure he stole plenty of things throughout his time coaching over there in New England, just throwing that out there. But you mentioned Tyson Bagent, which, of course, this is a game without Justin Fields. Bagent's making his first career start. That's a very big storyline, and it's really this offense is going to live and die by how well he executes and really how well Luke Getsy sets him up for success. And there's a lot of other variables in between. We're going to talk about them here. But I just wanted to at least take a moment and get your thoughts and share mine about the fact that this kid's don't you dare limit this playbook on me. I want to run this whole thing. You call it like you're supposed to. I feel comfortable with whatever you throw my way. And for a rookie who was undrafted coming from a D2 school, that kind of poise and confidence and just the fact that he believes he's mastering the offense enough to run this playbook. And obviously he's only been in part of the system for not even a full year, just a handful of months. I mean, that's impressive to me. I don't hear many quarterbacks without the experience that he doesn't even have yet, speak like that. And I just thought it was impressive to hear him talk like that this week. And I haven't been on a show yet. Just working on a lot of stuff here. And of course, my schedule's Fridays right now. So I just want to at least share like how exciting that was for me and a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a breath. It's a new type of energy, I would say, with Tyson Bagent. It's I would say refreshing too to hear such a young guy, and he's going to speak confidently about himself because how many D2 undrafted quarterbacks ever get to really start an NFL football game? And the list is it's very small. So for Tyson to be in the position that he is, to work his way up the depth chart and put himself in this position today, that's a credit to himself. He always knew that he would make it to the NFL one day. Him and his dad were probably only two guys that thought that, and that's what he said in his press conference on Wednesday. But yeah, you want to hear that from the young quarterback. And I think Luke Getsy, as much as people really care what Luke Getsy has to say at this point, he knows that he understands the playbook, but did he master all of it? Probably not at this point. That'd be a lot to say for even a guy like him who, again, really prides himself in his preparation. But let's see what Tyson can do. Kind of play loose. I think he said something along the lines like he has nothing to lose. He doesn't, man. Just go out there, play your game, and see what you can do on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point I wanted to make is the fact that, like, yes, Bagent said, give me the whole thing, give me the whole big ass T-bone. I can eat the whole thing. And then you're looking like, well, you're still a child. You have to, work your way up a little bit. And I'm not calling him like a child. I'm just doing a reference of me feeding my own children here. So I want to be clear. But I just want to Getsy as his coach has to understand what those limitations are and being able to coach around those and where he is in this offense, honestly. So it's one thing to hear it from the QB. It's another thing for the coach to believe it, see it, and just know how to set this young, inexperienced quarterback up for success. Because there were plays last week in that game. I was driving home from vacation, pulled up Sunday Ticket on my phone, peeking at it a little bit. And once he came into the game, he made a few plays and I was like, okay, we saw those in preseason and they translated. But the one thing he needs to do, which is my first key, limit some of these mistakes because he had 2 costly turnovers in that game last week. And if the Bears want a shot at winning this week against the Raiders, those mistakes are going to have to be limited. It's really hard to win with a backup when you turn that ball over multiple times. And again, I'm not going to sit here on a Friday afternoon and demand and expect perfection out of Tyson Bagent. I think that's an egregious thing to do right now, but I wouldn't mind it. I just won't really expect it. So what I want to see are those mistakes being limited because the Raiders are an opportunistic, there we go, defense. They have 5 interceptions, which is tied for the 5th most in the NFL. Their linebacker, Robert Spillane, safety, Trayvon Moreano, they each have 2. And then, of course, Max Crosby, we'll talk about him a little bit more in a minute. But if he ends up blowing this Bears offensive line in shambles, gets into the backfield in a hurry, this Raiders defense is going to be looking for these chances. So for the Bears, for Tyson, we have to limit these mistakes.
No doubt about it, because I think that is one way, that's how the New England Patriots lost that game last week against the Raiders. And there was just some costly turnovers by Mac Jones, just really inexcusable, again, mistakes that you were kind of talking about, Will, that let the Raiders kind of hang around in that game. And they really just held on to that victory last week. So for Tyson Bagent, clean football, man. If you can, you're always going to put yourself in a much better position to actually be competitive in a game if you just don't have those self-inflicted injuries. So for Tyson, like I said, kind of goes back to my first key, executing, staying within yourself and limiting those mistakes. A second key that I have, Will, that will, I think, help Tyson do that in this game, especially you mentioned Max Crosby. You need to get the ball out quick and get it to your playmakers. Like DJ Moore having only 1 target, in that first half against the Vikings last week, that's inexcusable, especially coming off the game that he had against the Washington Commanders. So for a guy like that, a young quarterback, what do we always say for even Justin Fields? You want to get him an established playmaker. That's DJ Moore. Same thing applies to Tyson Bagent. Give him an established guy and utilize them within the game plan, regardless of what the routes are. If they're quick slants, if they are screen passes, if you want to take a shot deep, utilize him. You have him for a reason. You have DJ Moore for a reason. You know what kind of playmaker he is. So in this game plan for Luke Getsy against a Raiders front that I think they work well in tandem together, but really it's Max Crosby that you got to worry about. Get the ball to your playmaker and live to fight another down and see how you can build off of that. But if I don't see DJ Moore with I don't know, 4 or 5 targets like in the first, by the end, like 3
by the end of the first
quarter.
series. No,
yeah, there you go.
First set of downs, 3 targets.
We need to see that, Will. I think that's I'd rather them force it to DJ than not throw to DJ at all, because I just know good things happen when you get the ball to DJ Moore.
They really do. And I personally would expect the Raiders to know about this key, believe in this key, because that's what I would be doing if I was a defensive coordinator looking at this matchup. DJ Moore is the man on this offense right now, and an inexperienced quarterback having a guy that is so damn good, like he's going to become his best friend, and they're going to try their best to make sure that doesn't happen, which is why my second key, Nick, as much as I want to see him feed DJ Moore, is we still need to spread the wealth a little bit, because Darnell Mooney, he had a big game last week, that 39-yard reception. Robert Tonyan decided, hey, I'm going to get acclimated in this offense a little bit. He had an 11-yard catch. Tyler Scott got involved a little bit as well. And I just feel like for Tyson to succeed, we have to spread this wealth a little bit, force the Raiders to defend the entire field. You can't just key in on 1 or 2 guys. Like if they try to take away Cole Kmet and DJ Moore, and that's the only outlets that the Bears are trying to force this offense through, that's not going to work. But having some of these other supplemental pieces will really help. And for Tyson, who's been primarily practicing with backups, right, ever since he came in, because he had to work his way up the depth chart, and sitting there between QB2, QB3 this season, he has a little bit more rapport with guys like Tyler Scott and Robert Tonyan right now. So that's going to help him a little bit if he can have some of his guys on the field in addition to DJ Moore. DJ Moore makes quarterbacks' jobs easier. He's not going to make it any more difficult. It's good things happen when you throw number 2's way. And I want to see that, but at the same time, spread the wealth a little bit as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the thing about DJ Moore, that stigma about number 1 wide receivers being divas, that could not be further from the truth with how DJ Moore is as a person, as a character, as a player. So even if he's not getting the ball, you're not going to hear anything bad about him. So give him the ball early and often and continue that throughout the game is definitely going to be a good recipe for success for the Bears offense on Sunday. My last key here, Will, and look, I really don't know what this offensive line is going to look like, but it's just going to be overall communication. However this shapes up. It's looking like right now Tevin Jenkins is going to be your right guard for this game. You'll have Lucas Patrick at center, left guard as Cody Whitehair, Larry Borum at left tackle, and then that right tackle spot. Could it be Darnell Wright? Potentially. He's been doubtful with that shoulder for the last couple of practices. Is it going to be, I don't know, are you going to put Jatari Carter over there? Are you going to put maybe I think it's Vontae Collins? The combination there, whatever the result is, it's not going to be obviously the best version of itself, even if it is Darnell Wright because of the injury. But the communication on the line needs to be so much better than it was last Sunday against the Vikings, because you just go play by play. Guys don't know what they're doing. And even if they do, they're blocking the wrong guys, setting up maybe the running back to block a defensive end, when in any type of matchup, if Max Crosby has to go up against Deontay Foreman in pass pro, you already know who's winning that matchup before it even plays out. So that cannot be what happens in this game on Sunday. Just the communication needs to be so much better. And it's so disappointing that it was so off when the Bears had 10 days to prepare for this matchup. And so that's why when I look at it, okay, now they even have less time. You have Tyson Bagent as quarterback. You have a question mark at your right tackle. You have Tevin Jenkins, who's on the right side when he's been practicing at the left. Lots of things can go awry here because of what the combination might be. But however you got to do it, the communication needs to be so much better.
It really does. 100% agreed on every single point you made. And it really just goes right into my last key, which is just survive this offensive line flux and Max Crosby. You mentioned all the shuffling. I don't need to rehash it. But regardless of who's playing, I think my 2 primary concerns, one is center and the other one is going to be right tackle. Darnell Wright with a bad shoulder going up against Max Crosby, that's dangerous. And then, of course, having a backup, whoever that's going to be, however they want to shuffle it out, is still going to be equally, perhaps damning for the Chicago Bears offense, because Max Crosby does lead the league in total pressures coming off the edge at 38. He's tied for 7th in the NFL with 5.5 sacks. I mean, this dude just lives in the backfield. They may as well give him his own mailing address back there. He's fast off the snap. He just has all the pass rush moves to beat those tackles, and he's just going to be a big challenge, regardless for the Chicago Bears. So if they want to win this game, they're going to have to find a way to survive Max Crosby, survive this offensive line kind of shuffling yet again. And then my one other point on the center is, no matter who it is, we just have to be able to snap the football if we're in shotgun. It's so frustrating to watch last week over again. And I know Cody Whitehair, he has had those snap issues. You go all the way back to the Trubisky days, Nick. We have talked about this in nauseum on podcasts over the years. And, he took some time off. He goes to guard for a few years, back to center, same issue. And when that happens, not only is it a potential risk for turnovers, but it just gives the entire play is off schedule from the get-go. Like that extra half second that it takes to jump, use your vertical to go get that football, then corral it, and then get set and go through your read and progression in your drop. Everything's already off schedule, and it's really hard to succeed when everyone's out of sync, out of rhythm, just due to the snap. So that needs to be cleaned up here this week, regardless of who it is.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, it was both centers too. Like even when Lucas got in there, the interception that Tyson threw, you see the snap, it's high and slow. So Tyson's waiting, come on. All right, now we can go into the drop and see what I can do. And he threw an interception. So it needs to be better. And it's crazy that when I asked Matt Eberflus about Cody's snapping issue, he said there was nothing glaring. Like, what are we watching here? There's nothing glaring.
Seriously.
How many times does he need to roll the ball back or throw it over to his right to be glaring? But hey, that's what I guess the accountability or lack of accountability that's happening at Hallis Hall. But it does need to be better, Will. And I think too, what makes Max Crosby so great. I got a chance to talk to Travis Smith, his D-line coach, when he was in with the Raiders, and it's like, it's not even about the moves, you guys. It's about the motor, the relentlessness that he plays with. You see that every single time this guy goes out on the football field, whether it's a play opposite of him, you're going to see Crosby, you're going to see his number, his jersey, most likely around the football. So regardless if it's whoever's playing right tackle, you'll see Crosby on the left side going against Larry Borom. A healthy Larry Borum's not going to be much of a challenge for him either. So it's going to be quite the matchup, and expect those tight ends, Lewis, Kmet, Tanyan, to be in and chip to help, because they're going to need it on Sunday.
It's crazy that we've given 6 keys and not one of us decided to establish the run. Just saying. And I do think that should be an emphasis this week. As we know, an inexperienced, any quarterback and their best friend is a good, healthy run game. And what frustrated me the most about that interception at the end of the game for the Bears when they were marching down was the fact that they were getting chunks on the ground in this stage of the game. Like they were creating rushing lanes. They were getting 6-7 yards. You can tell they wore out that defensive front. And I thought the Bears were just going to, dink and dunk and run and kill all the clock, get down there and have a chance to score. And that game outcome could have been a little bit different. But then we do the hero ball that Tyson did. And, I like some aggression, but I thought the Bears were moving the ball just fine how they were. And a lot of that was finally getting some good gains on the ground. So I expect them here again this week to try to reestablish that run, which could negate some of that past rush. Maybe you can set up some play action, but yeah, I just thought it was funny because I know we're doing this show a little bit differently with like our graphics. So usually we share some of these keys before, but I was like, Nick's going to do something about the running game. I don't have to do it. And then he did it. So I wanted to make sure that at least we brought it up, because I think we would be remiss to not at least mention it as a supplemental key at that.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Will. And, kind of a extension of the run game is that quick passing game too. When you saw the Patriots do a little bit and they had some success with it, again, there were some penalties that maybe negate some plays, but they were throwing into the blitz. So whichever side Crosby was on, if they had an extra defender coming down as well, they were throwing to that side and trying to get some big plays to go off of that. The one game last week that Luke Getsy doesn't really call any screens, he should have, with how that blitz attack from the Vikings was going. Maybe you'll see some of that this game plan. I don't know with this Bears offense how it fluctuates every single week, but that might be something to think about as you're wondering where Crosby's at. Throw into his direction and see if you can make a big play happen off of that.
Well, how many times when we had Khalil Mack, do we see the other teams do that to us? All of the time. They negated Khalil that same exact way. And when you do throw towards the blitz, there usually are pockets in the defense right behind it. So it's kind of like staring right in the line of fire. But if you do it, good things could happen there. And really the screen game would be interesting with so much changing up front for the offensive line, guys maybe flipping sides of the ball, like your landmarks will be different. And I think it could be like some chaos and confusion, but what can correct that is what you mentioned for one of your keys, which is the communication up front. So really good stuff there, Nick. Let's take our first time out. And then on the other side of this break, we're going to give you our keys to success for the Chicago Bears defense. But Nick, I'm going to hand it over to you for that first ad read.
Yeah, I got to tell everybody about Circa Sportsbook, you guys. What's really cool is about the Circa Sportsbook app and just Circa in general is the tight money line splits and also the low hold model, which is basically games will strive to be at a 110 split on the Circa Sportsbook menu. Unlike other sportsbook, you usually see that around 115 to 120 splits. But Circa Sports, they keep as little as money as possible on large market bets, those futures, golf tournaments, maybe you're doing your future Super Bowl winner, but especially compared to those other sports books. So that's one reason why I like Circa. Circa Sportsbook also does not limit players based on their winning. So if you're unlike me and are actually winning your bets, every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning plays. And, Circa Sports encourages bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps to kind of see that comparison there. And then also, sometimes things go awry when you're using certain sports books, but what's cool, Circa, their customer service, like they actually have real people behind the Circa Sportsbook brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books. And we've all experienced some problems here and there, but you get real people talking to you. So I always appreciate that when you don't have to go through, some computer service robot thing. So Circa's got real people, so you definitely check that out. But here's the most important part about anything, you guys. Download the Circa Sports Illinois at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. And if you're someone may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537, or text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Awesome stuff, Nick. Now, something that really frustrates me when I want to go to like a Bears game or a concert, or really any event, is like when I can't find the tickets I'm looking for. Like, I don't know if they're even good seats. There's just not a lot of good deals out there. It's really frustrating. And, with my busy life, sometimes I don't buy the ticket until we're getting close to the actual event. And really nobody should have to worry about when you're buying tickets to your next big event, because Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, which is something that I really appreciate. They have those last minute tickets I was talking about, flash deals, zone deals. It's easy to find and buy tickets really for every kind of event inside of your area. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy it. I love doing that. Like, no matter what event I'm going to, like, what's this seat actually look like? And they have it right there in your app. You don't have to go to other places to kind of figure out the view from your seat. And they also have all-in prices, so that way you know exactly what you're getting, and without those hidden fees. And you can buy tickets literally in 2 taps, so just a matter of seconds. So go ahead and take out the guesswork of buying tickets with Game Time. Download that Game Time app, create an account, use our code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, you have to create an account, redeem that code CHGO for $20 off. So download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano here, CHGO Bears Podcast. It's an audible day, Chicago Bears game preview time. We gave you the keys to success on offense. We're going to shift our attention to the Bears defense. But before we fully cross that line, Nick, there was a comment from Alfredo in here to saying like, hey, what did Nick say about Tevin Jenkins? I heard the name, but I didn't catch the info.
Yes, and I actually put it in the chat that Tevin's most likely going to be playing that right guard spot. So you're seeing more fluctuation on that O-line, and putting Tevin in, it'll be an interesting spot for him. I know he didn't have his best game against the Vikings. He had a really good game against the Commanders. So now you're switch him to the opposite side. So we'll see how he holds up there.
Which, again, he played right guard well. Let's not say like Tevin Jenkins can't play right guard. Like we've seen him play it last year. He played it well. That's not the issue. They're trying to get, you brought in Nate Davis, so it made sense to move Tevin over. We had a huge discussion about it. So as long as Tevin has that muscle memory, moves over fine. I mean, really with him in the interior, regardless, I feel really good about what he always provides the Chicago Bears up front. But let's switch over to the Bears defense, and I'll give you my very first key to begin this conversation, which is red zone defense, baby. I mean, it is priority number 1A if you're the Chicago Bears on defense. Why? Well, first of all, the Raiders, their offense, very poor in the red zone this season. They're 27th in points per game overall this year, only averaging 16.7 points per game. And that was with Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's see what happens with a backup. We don't know who's going to play as of right now. We have, of course, when you want to look into the actual red zone, they're also very ineffective. You can tell by the low points per game, but they're 25th in the NFL in the red zone on offense, only scoring touchdowns 40% of the time. Last week, only scored touchdowns on 16.7% of those red zone trips. But the reason why this is a priority is because just how bad the Raiders are on offense in the red zone, the Bears are actually worse in the red zone on defense. They're the second worst red zone defense in the league, allowing touchdowns on about 80% of trips. And that's also true over the last 3 weeks. They allowed 85.7% touchdown rate in the red zone over the last 3 games. So really, it's just a battle of two bads when it comes to the side of the ball and the red zone right here. But for the Bears, if they want to win this game, they must be better in the red zone this week. Keep the Raiders from scoring touchdowns. Force them to settle for field goals. Maybe they'll go for it. Turn it over on downs. But if you allow the Raiders to get into the red zone, and then you allow them to get easy touchdowns, something they have not had all year inside the 20, it's going to be a long day for the Bears to try to play catch up here with Tyson Bagent at quarterback as well. So that's my very first key. Chicago Bears, red zone defense. It's been bad for years now, and they just need to figure that out. It's supposed to be harder for offenses, I thought, once the area of the field gets a little condensed. I see it every other game besides Bears games when they just allow opponents to literally walk in to the end zone. But that's my first key, Nick.
Yeah, and if it's not better on Sunday with a rookie quarterback, like you're not helping your team in any way. So the Bears definitely need to be better in that area, like you just mentioned. Well, I think for me, I'm expecting Brian Hoyer to be the starter for the Raiders on Sunday. So for this defense, they almost have to be okay with giving up completions because that's what Hoyer is going to do. He's going to be someone who operates the offense, knows what he needs to do, and get the ball out quickly. And so for the Bears, you have to be okay with completions, but you got to, I think my main takeaway here is just, you got to be able to tackle in space because I think that can be an area where, with Hoyer being at the quarterback, he's going to distribute the football and just get it to whoever is the main read on the play or even go further than that on his reading progressions, but you need to be able to tackle. And I think the Bears, for the most part, they did a better job of that against the Vikings. There were a couple plays here and there where they allowed some extra yards after the catch, but like Michael Mayer, he's starting to blossom, do some good things at the tight end position for the Raiders. You got to make sure you bring him down. Obviously, you have a guy like Devontae Adams. We know what he can do, just being in Green Bay for as long as he was. So there are guys on that offense that can create some yards after the catch, and I think Hoyer can actually distribute the football. But for this Bears defense, have to wrap up, have to tackle, have to be around the football. You got to get some Max Crosby in you and just kind of play with that relentless effort and be around the ball. But just expect the completions. Will, we went way back, 2016, right?
Yes.
When 2016 Bears Jaguars, Brian Hoyer was the freaking quarterback of the Bears. We know what he's capable of doing, and we know like how his game is. So just expect the completions, but you got to be there to tackle.
I believe the anniversary of that game was last weekend, if my Facebook memories serve me well.
Yes.
I did see those, but yeah, that was the day that we met in person for the very first time. You and I were two lucky sons of a guns who got to hang out, meet in person for the first time, and watch Brian Hoyer lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Chicago. It was a great time, but that was fun. But ideally, we don't see Hoyer want to, have some revenge against the Bears, quote unquote revenge here this week. But a good way to kind of force, the Raiders to beat you with their backup quarterback is stopping the run. Josh Jacobs is a very good running back, but they have struggled to really establish the run this season. They're averaging less than 1 rushing yard before contact this year. I'm just saying. So he's getting contacted within a yard of the line of scrimmage on average. He's only averaging 2.9 yards per carry this season, Jacob is. And again, it doesn't mean he's a bad running back. He's still a very talented player. It's just really more of the Raiders offensive line right there. So if the Bears can just win the line of scrimmage, get to Jacobs and make those tackles before he starts getting some of those chunks, that's going to really help this Bears team and their efforts. They are actually the Bears tied for the 8th best run defense so far this year. I just wanted to throw that out there, only allowing 89.5 yards per game on the ground. They're also tied for the best run defense over the last 3 weeks, only allowing 57.3 yards per game on the ground, and only 3.4 yards per game per rush on the ground, which is also, I think, top 5 over the last 3 weeks. Really impressive for a Bears run defense that, as we know, last year was historically bad and started off the season looking pretty much relatively the same. They have turned that around a little bit, so I'm going to give them their credit. So again, doesn't matter who's under center for the Raiders. The last thing the Bears want to do is allow them to easily march down the field on the ground without even having to put it in the quarterback's hands. And they're going to, regardless if they're getting gains or not, they are going to try to run this football. The Jacobs has at least 20 carries over his last 2 games. So they're going to keep hammering away. They're going to try to wear you down, even if they're not getting 4 yards or so per pop. And then also with just Josh Jacobs as a receiver, you just got to watch him. 32 targets, second most among running backs. He has 25 catches, 209 yards this year as a receiver. So that's a big matchup coming out of the backfield for both TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. But for me, my second key on defense, again, stop this run game.
No, it's definitely a good point, Will. And for my second key, it's the same thing as my first one, communication, but this is for the defense. And when you look at the 1 touchdown drive that the Bears gave up to the Vikings right before halftime, there were some communication issues that were happening on that drive. And Herb Howard here in the chat, eye discipline has been an issue in the red zone. That was also an issue that came up on that drive specifically. There are a couple reps where it's either Kyler Gordon trying to talk to Tyreek Stevenson to go out wide because no one's defending the wide open wide receiver. And at the snap, Gordon's not even looking, at the line of scrimmage. He's trying to communicate to Tyreek, like, you need to get over there. And by the time that happens, the inside receiver runs a slant and is able to get a first down. On the touchdown play, there are a couple things that went wrong on that one. You have Tyreek and then you have Jaquan as the 2 kind of secondary players, but it was a zone play. The rush wasn't where it needed to be. There's some eye candy in front of Tyreek that kind of puts him out of position, but communication needs to be key just for this Raiders offense to not have success. Because like you said, well, it's not a good offense. It's been an offense that has been struggling to score, struggling to move the ball. Davante Adams is being outspoken about how he needs to get more involved in this offense. So there are things that they need to work on, but how the Bears can mitigate that just by communicating and making sure you're set. And so if they are better at that, then you're definitely going to have, this Raiders offense have to work a little bit more. So just looking at the communication, just making sure everyone's on the same page, that's going to be huge for this Bears defense to have some success. And also just play with physicality as a secondary players. If you watch that Jabril Peppers pop on Davante Adams last week, I asked Jaquan Brisker about that. I'm like, for a safety, what do you got to do to put yourself in a position like that? And, it just takes the right play, he was saying. But, when you have a shot like that, you take the kill shot. If the Bears have opportunities to take kill shots like that, that created a turnover, an interception on that play. So communication, and I just want to see the physicality from this Bears secondary. And if they can do that, like I said, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult on the Raiders offense.
I love it. Always setting the tone, physical presence on defense. I always love when that's a key. And really, I love when my team plays with that kind of attitude. So that's a really good one there, Nick. My final key, I'm doing something a little bit different, which is going to be a key matchup, which is Jalen Johnson versus Davante Adams. As we know, Davante Adams, as a Packer, was not too kind to the Chicago Bears. 81 catches, 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Woof. And then if you look specifically against Jalen Johnson in his career, 13 targets. He's caught 8 of those balls for 137 and a touchdown. But Jalen Johnson, as we know, a very good cover corner. He has only allowed 47% completions when targeted this year, 10th best in the NFL. He's also forcing incompletions on about 1/5 of those targets too. And Davante Adams, as you said, a little vocal, get me more involved. I mean, he's coming off a game where he had less than 30 yards receiving. So as we talked about for the Bears, and you said it too, DJ Moore, you want to feed him the football. It makes a lot of sense. Whoever's playing quarterback for the Raiders, the same thing's going to be true. They're going to want to get this football in Adams' hands. So finding a way to eliminate it, whether it's shadowing, whether it's double teaming, because Adams will go into the slot sometimes. So maybe Kyler Gordon should be involved here. Whoever it is, just don't allow them to have an easy day targeting their wide receiver one, because if we do, they're going to have, a hard time not scoring, because if you allow Adams to eat and you allow this Bears defense to get their backs against the wall in the red zone, as we mentioned, and as Herb also threw out in the chat about the eye discipline being a big issue, this Bears red zone defense just ain't it. So a big matchup here for the Bears is Jalen Johnson and Davante Adams.
No doubt. It's been a classic matchup. Obviously, Johnson is someone who is always up for that matchup, wants that matchup. So it'll be another opportunity for him to go against one of the better wide receivers in the league. Last key, you guys, and I think I've said this for probably every preview show after week 1, continue using those linebackers and bring the blitz with them. The one play, there's a couple plays where they brought a little extra pressure, but not enough. You bring TJ Edwards on the blitz. He goes right through the running back, hits Kirk Cousins as he throws, and Tremaine Edmonds is able to get the fumble recovery. I like seeing the Bears linebackers do something a little different than just dropping back in coverage or playing the run. Like, these guys are athletic. Use them to their capabilities and have them, mugged up at the line of scrimmage, then drop back right before, the snap. Like, Brian Hoyer's seen a lot of football. He's not going to get overly confused on things, but let him think about some things at times. So using those linebackers to, again, create some kind of confusion, I like that. And I like it when they go on the blitz. And, Jack Sanborn obviously doesn't have as much reps as he did last season, but he had a really great game against the Minnesota Vikings last week. So if you do go into that, traditional 4-3, and you see Jack Sanborn on the field, I think that's always a plus for the Bears, because he's been playing some good football. But use those linebackers, utilize them in different ways, and then see what you can get from them.
Awesome stuff there, Nick. Showing Sanborn love is always a good way to, score some points with the chat and with the viewers at home. So I know exactly what you're doing over there. So let's go ahead and take another time out here real quick. On the flip side, we're going to do some X Factors, who has the edge. A lot of good things are coming on the flip side of this break. So hang tight and stick with us here. But I want to let you know about FOCO, because they have the best sports gear around. They have hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, literally everything in between. And I mean, I shared with every single time, like, you can get those Bears bibs. I think those are really dope. They have also like Chicago Bears sunglasses. They got those friendship bracelets that I know people are waiting to give us over at the tailgate. There's literally like anything. And I know we're getting close to like the holiday season now too. So if you're thinking about buying, some awesome Bears merch for either yourself or maybe some other Bears fans in your life, FOCO is a great place to check it out. Again, so many cool things, like also like some cool like hats, not just like beanies or like caps, but like straw hats. They just have so much fun with all of those merch. And of course, this is a remote show, but if we were live, I just want to make sure everyone knows, like, hey, they have donated some awesome pieces to our set. So definitely go show them some love. So go check out foco.com or click the link in the description below, both here on YouTube and your podcast player of choice. For all non-presale items, use our promo code CHGO, and that's going to unlock you 10% off. Again, that's foco.com, code CHGO, 10% off all non-presale items.
Yeah, and check out FOCO, but I just want to tell everybody about CHGO and all those awesome things that we're doing here. Everyone in the chat already knows, but we obviously have podcasts and live shows on every single team every single day. And if you don't want to get your Bears coverage, but we appreciate you for being here, we have the Blackhawks going on right now. We obviously have the Bulls are going to be up in season, and still Sox, Cubs are still doing their thing. So we have everything for Chicago sports, but this is the place to be for post-game shows, whether your team wins, loses in disappointing fashion like we've come to know here with the Bears. You got to be here for the post-game shows because that's where it's at. You get premium written content from members at all CHGO. You get Hoag's newsletter actually dropped today. You would know if you were, a diehard, but 20% off all events, dope merch for, all the teams, a free shirt when you become a member, and you have the members only Discord. So plenty of great incentives to become a diehard. And also for, at our tailgates here, we have 2 left, Las Vegas and obviously Carolina, and the Vegas one will be here this weekend, but X Golf will be giving away a $200 gift certificate to any of their Chicagoland locations. And you can find the X Golf nearest you at playxgolf.com/Chicagoland. So look, this is honestly my favorite part of Sundays is going to these tailgates, hanging out with everybody who's there and just having a really good time with all of our people that help support us, here at CHGO. It just validates what we're doing and the great time that you're having. I had my uncle, my brother, some college friends come to this last tailgate, and, they said, despite the Bears losing, that was such a great time. So if we can accomplish that, like that is, always a win for us here at CHGO. So definitely check that out. And if you don't have plans for Sunday, definitely consider coming to the tailgate.
Awesome stuff there. And as we see here with Greg Baggs, give us a like. Good stuff there. Nick, as well as, let's see, Steve in the chat says, what's my shirt? It's just a Nike sweater. Nothing crazy. Nice and simple. Keeping it minimalistic here today
Don't
on
you
the
and
show.
Adam have the same one?
It's very
is that
close.
Right?
I don't know about the shade.
Okay.
Every time I see him wear it, I'm like, but we'd have to see it in person because Nike, they have every shade of everything.
They do.
But it is orange and it is Nike, and I think it's the same logo, the same big logo. So it's close. It's definitely close. All right, let's get into our X Factors of the week. I'm gonna kick this one off, and I am gonna surprise some people. I'm going with Tyler Scott as my X Factor of the game. So he's coming off a career high 4 targets last week, 2 receptions. Both came when Tyson entered the game. And as I said earlier, these two have practiced together a lot. So he has a lot more experience throwing to Tyler Scott than he does to, let's say, a DJ Moore. But I'm not, and as I said earlier, I still want to throw number 2's way. But that comfort level, I think, could be leading to more targets coming Scott's way. We saw that, Tyson, he wasn't afraid to throw that ball downfield, and we've been waiting for Tyler Scott to become that deep threat that we talked about all off season. He's only averaging 6.4 yards per catch this season, and I'm waiting for that potential to kind of, pop off a bit, because that was the big talk about what he can become as a pure deep threat in this offense. So I can see Scott making a few plays in this game, which I think would surprise more of the casual fan, not anyone here in the chat, because they're all the diehards, but the people watching, from home, and maybe they're not paying attention to all the things who's this Scott guy? I could be one of those games. He may not have eye-boggling numbers, but he's going to prove to have an impact, I think, in this game. And as for offense, I said I want to see the wealth be spread around. Then if this Bagent Scott can become a thing, that's going to force the defense to pay attention to him, which opens up a Cole Kmet, opens up a little bit more Darnell Mooney, can help open up a DJ Moore, which has a lot of value as well. So for me, X Factor, let's go for Tyler Scott.
I like it, Will. We need more positive X Factors. My X Factor, I don't know if this is positive or negative, but we're going with Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy and the game plan. Because here, if he calls what he's done before in games where the offense hasn't worked, you already know what the result's going to be at the end of the game. If we see more along the lines of the Denver game early on, and obviously the Washington Commanders game, and putting his quarterback, Tyson Bagent, in a position to succeed, now we have something here. So Luke Getsy is a wild card X Factor, and however you want to take it. So if he calls what he's been doing as of late, the Bears are not going to have much of a chance in this one. He needs to be able to, one, see what Tyson Bagent does well and just maximize that strength. If he tries to make him play from the pocket and have his offensive line, whoever is there, trying to block for an extensive amount of time, you're going to see the consequences of that with a guy like Max Crosby. So That's why he's my X factor. However you want to take it. If he does a poor job, we'll see it. It'll be glaring. If he does a somewhat decent job, I think the Bears will actually be in this game. So that's going to be my X factor, Luke Getsy, and whatever the game plan is going into Sunday.
I saw a good one here in the chat. Where did it go? It was from Dave. Getsy's trending towards being an X factor with the EX instead of the X factor with just an X. So I thought that was a pretty funny comment there from Dave. Really good stuff. Let's go ahead and figure out who has the edge here in a few departments in this game. I'm up first this week. I have the Bears passing attack versus that Raiders pass defense. And when you look at the Raiders, just statistically, they enter the game with the 8th best passing defense in terms of yards per game. Only 193 yards allowed through the air per game. They also have Max Crosby, who is that, as I mentioned, a game wrecker, sack machine, pressure machine, and they have 5 picks already this season while the Bears are playing a backup who's undrafted in his first start of his career behind another makeshift offensive line combo for the Bears with backups, at maybe right tackle, obviously at right guard, whether it's a backup or moving your left guard over to right guard. Who's playing center? I mean, there's just so many things over there. And if Darnell Wright, even if he's out there, if he's not fully healthy, like how much is that going to help the Bears right now here? So with all of that, I just feel like the Raiders are the easy one to say, hey, they're going to have the edge here. So I'm going to give them the edge here in the Bears pass attack versus that Raiders pass defense. But Nick, I go over to you. And we talked about a little bit about the Bears, maybe they should try to establish a run. So you have the Bears rushing attack versus that Raiders run defense.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be opportunities for this Bears rushing attack to kind of build off what they were doing in spurts against the Vikings and then continue it on Sunday. So I'm going to give this one to the Bears, and I think there's going to be, from Luke Getsy, a commitment to try to run the football, whether it's Foreman or, when you have Darrington Evans in the game, who just got back with the team. There were definitely some good signs from what you were seeing. And like you said earlier in the show, Will, kind of wish they kind of committed to it a little bit more on that potential last drive and an interception. So I like what the Bears can potentially do. Again, you just hope that the communication up front, Jenkins obviously knowing his responsibilities, I think he will, but you just don't know what you're going to get out of your right tackle. And, obviously with Lucas Patrick at center. So there's some fluctuation. So it wouldn't be, I think, surprising to see some things kind of go wrong in the beginning, but the Bears can continue to, establish it, commit to it. I think the Bears can actually do some decent things on the ground. So I'll give it to the Bears on this one.
All right. One for the Raiders, one for the Bears. We're going to flip to the other side of the ball now. I have Raiders rushing attack versus the Bears run defense. And I'm going to go with the Bears here. I already gave all the stats about how they're ranking, top 2 in terms of yards per game over the last few weeks, 5 overall this season against the run, and both in yards allowed per game, but also in allowed per rush. I mean, it's impressive. Honestly, you can't discredit it. The Raiders, they have really struggled to even reach 4 yards per carry so far this season. Their offense is struggling to generate push. They're struggling to win the point of attack. So by golly, Nick, we finally reached the point where I can give the Bears run defense, which you rewind 1 month, and I said this is probably not going to happen all season, but I'm going to be able to give them the edge here this week, and I'm very happy to do so.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, actually, so the Bears defense has quietly been trending in a better direction than they were to start this season, which is obviously good. And, I'm going to continue on, I guess, the Bears bandwagon here. So it's the Bears pass defense versus the Raiders pass offense. And look, Brian Hoyer, like I'm expecting to play at quarterback. I get it. You have Devontae Adams, you have Michael Mayer, you have some weapons out there, but I like what this Bears, secondary has looked like back with now Kyler Gordon there. Jaquan Brisker, I think, was having a pretty decent game against the Vikings. If you can, I think, fix some of the communication things like I was talking about with Tyreek Stevenson and things like that, I think they have a chance to not allow the Raiders passing attack to go off and be like a complete outlier from what they've been doing recently. So I'm going to give it to the Bears, Will. That's weird because this team's 1-5 and the Raiders are 3-3, but I think that would give the Bears 3-1.
It would.
Right.
But what if I told you to take into account the pass defense in the red zone and how that's been playing.
Where it matters.
Where a little bit where it matters. Could I sway you into a tie?
I think you could. Yeah, I think you could because, again, when we've seen the Bears in the red zone defensively, you don't see the pass rush, and then you see ultimately the coverage break down. Again, the Vikings scored 1 touchdown offensively, Jordan Addison, on that nice little corner route. No pass rush, breakdown in communication, touchdown, and that's all they really needed to end up winning that game. So, okay, I'll be swayed because it wasn't like a definitive Bears, but I like the direction they were heading. So let's put it at 2-2 because that seems very fitting for this game.
I feel better about that because you said like they won't go off, and I agree. I don't expect a 300-yard Hoyer game, or anything like that. We've seen it, but it could happen. But if they say they only allow 150 passing yards, but then they allow 2 touchdowns surrendered in the red zone like that, and that could end up losing this game. Like that was my thought process behind that one as well. But let's go ahead. Let's play some over-unders here real quick. There's not a lot just due to, backup versus backup. So they're really kind of tight on those lines. Like we don't even have quarterback props, but we have rushing yards for Josh Jacobs. His line's 73.5. What do you think?
Ooh, I'm going under on that. That's a lot of yards for Josh Jacobs. And like you said, the run defense has been playing better.
Mm-hmm. All right. I can get behind that. What about Cole Kmet at 30.5?
Man, I don't know what we're getting out of this pass offense, Will. 30.5. I'd go under too on Cole there.
What about DJ Moore at 55.5?
I want to do it, but I'll say the over on DJ Moore. They got to get him more involved this game.
Yeah, they do. What about Devontae Adams? This is at 68.5.
Man, that's a lot. Like from what he's been averaging, he's been vocal about it.
Yeah, trust me.
We'll give him the over. Yeah.
But my other fantasy team has this guy, Jacoby Myers, which has been really helpful. His line's 50.5. I know we haven't really talked about Jacoby, which is
true,
ridiculous.
And he was in the middle of the field doing some damage against the Patriots. So I'm glad we get to talk about him a little bit. I take the over on that.
All right, cool. I'm just going to leave it there. It's just some other guys that are like 10, 12 yards, like Mayer and things like that. And we can digress and move on there. Let's go ahead and let's take our final break because that way on the flip side, we can do all of our predictions at the same time. So I think there's just one, and it's for me because I have a big question for everybody. Are you in the market for a new or used vehicle? Because if you are, then we have some great news for you because Ray Chevy in Fox Lake has just joined the CHGO team. And we're talking to the team at Ray, and they have this pledge called the Ray Promise, and it's a guarantee that the price that you see online is the price that you pay when you go into the dealership. We found that in many cases with other dealers, they're going to raise that price on you when you come into the dealership, saying things like, are you a recent college grad? Are you active in the military? Are you a farmer? And in most cases, the answer is going to be no. And that's when the other dealers will raise the price on you, saying that the price online included some rebates that you just don't qualify for. But the good news is at Ray, that is just not the case. The price that you see online is the price that you pay with no add-ons to the price ever. In fact, Ray will do everything possible to find additional savings for you, which may make the price lower than you see online. So as one of the top selling dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories. And right now you can save big at Ray Chevy during their Trucker Treat Savings event because 0% is back and now available on new Silverado trucks, the perfect tailgate vehicle. So come on in to Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake and find the vehicle that you've been searching for and pay the 0 hidden fees with the Ray Price Promise. So visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com, serving the community since 1963. Find new roads.
Boom.
Did it. All right. Will and Nick, game preview. It's time to do some predictions, and we're going to start off big here. Nick, what's your week 7? I can't believe it's already week 7. Bold prediction.
I was struggling with this one, Will, to be completely honest. What is bold nowadays with this Bears team? But here's a bold, crazy prediction. At the end of the first half, it's going to be a 3-0 game in favor of the Raiders. So I'm giving you a score bold prediction.
Wow.
Bears, Raiders, 3-0 at halftime. Not going to see much offense, but both these teams come out with their backup quarterbacks in the second half and light it up. Quotes. If you're only listening, I definitely quotations there. 3-0 at halftime to in the first half. Bold prediction.
I don't know. I felt those quotations. I bet you people listening can feel those quotations that are lighted up. So that's a fun one. I went extra bold for mine here this week, and that's going to be at the end of the game. If you're going down the stat sheet, you go to the Raiders defense, you find Max Crosby, you go to the sack total, it's going to have a goose egg.
Ooh, wow. That is a big bold prediction.
Spicy prediction at that. So yeah, that's just a bold one. Obviously, we would all expect Crosby to do a little bit more, but maybe the Bears move the pocket, maybe they do some things, some max protects, whatever it is. Maybe people play out of their minds. We're gonna
maybe just has double-digit hurries instead. He won't have any sacks. Hey, I didn't say nothing about pressures.
All right, I said nothing about pressures. I'm just talking about taking Tyson down. Maybe Tyson's just really evasive. We'll whatever it is, it's just gonna help the Bears because we won't have any negative plays for Max Crosby forcing some sacks on us here. But that's our bold predictions. Now we'll predict who will be the most valuable Bear, which is actually kind of funny. Because Nick and I do this independently. And when I gave him my list before the show, he's like, oh, I guess I'm going to have to change mine. So who'd you change it to?
So I changed it to DJ Moore here, Will. I think that, we talked about it earlier that Bagent's going to have to just get him involved. The Bears should want to get him more involved in this game plan. And again, he makes things easier for quarterbacks. So I think that would be a good MVP to have there, having DJ Moore be that guy.
All right, there we go. Going for an offensive guy, although you wanted to go defense, so you don't have to lie or sugarcoat it or anything. We have the same guy independently, and I thought that was weird. So I'm curious your thoughts on why you got there. But the MVP that I came up with, and then you had too, was Kyler Gordon at the end of the day here. And for me, I just thought it's because he's going to see a little bit of it all because I feel like Davante Adams in the slot, he'll handle that matchup. Jacoby Myers plays from the slot sometimes. Same thing with Hunter Renfrow, which, as we know, a year ago was a very big part of this Raiders offense. And all three of these wide receivers, again, they're going to take their turn. So Gordon's just going to be a very important player for the Bears this weekend at nickel. And, coming off last week, finally getting back to action, shaking off some of those, I'll call them cobwebs, even though you can call them spider webs if you want. Looking forward to a stronger game from Kyler this week. And the Raiders, again, playing a backup. Nick, you believe it's going to be Hoyer. So let's just say, Kyler gets a couple of PPUs. Maybe he gets an interception. Like, why not? And he's going to be big part of helping stop this run game, too, with Josh Jacobs in there to do so in those sub packages. But what were you looking for in Kyler Gordon that made him also your MVP prediction?
Yeah, a lot of what you said there, Will, he's going to be asked to do a lot and try to stop different players. But one of those guys, too, the tight end Michael Mayer, who had his best game as a Raider last week against the Patriots, but you see what Gordon was doing against the Vikings. He was on TJ Hawkinson. There was one play on a third down where he did give up a slant to him, but for the most part, had some pretty good coverage on one of the better tight ends in the league last week. So for Kyler Gordon, I expect that game plan to be very similar. If they want him to blanket, the tight end, he can do that. If it is Davante Adams in the slot and the Bears choose not to have Jalen Johnson shadow, I like Kyler Gordon's ability to move, just in space. So Kyler Gordon, if that hand is allowing him to do everything, I want to see the nickel blitz too, that we saw Greg Stroman get a sack on against the Washington Commanders. Like, he's definitely capable of that, being physical, in the run game as well. But yeah, when you put Kyler Gordon in there, I'm like, oh yeah, got to switch my guy. But, hopefully we see both those DJ and Kyler just have really big games on Sunday.
Yeah, and Herb Howard's going to go with Foreman for MVP over there. So thank you for playing along at home there, Herb. Really appreciate it. And I think that's, like I talked about earlier, like the Bears were gaining those, getting those chunks on the ground towards the end of that last game. And I wish they would have stuck to it a little bit more. Maybe they learned the lessons. And of course, that'll help keep the ball out of Tyson's hand. As I'm saying, I want that to happen, but more of a balanced attack. So I like that one a lot. So let's see. I talked you into a draw. Who has the edge? We went through all the keys. We made some predictions, but it's time to predict who's actually going to win this game. Nick, who's going to win? I need to know.
Yeah, well, we need to know. We need to talk about this. Man, this one was tough for me too. But look, this is shaping out to be one of those games that is easily very forgettable when you kind of look back at this season. I have the Raiders winning this one, 20-17. But look, the Raiders are not this great team. They're 3-3 for a reason. They've been struggling on offense. They haven't been fantastic on defense. I would say they probably have arguably the two best players in this game, and Devontae Adams and Max Crosby. And there could be a debate for Adams and DJ Moore. I can hear that debate out. But if you're looking at, both these rosters, who has the two best players on offense and defense, you probably lean closer to the Raiders, and those two guys could be the difference makers on Sunday. So I'm going to give it to the Raiders, 20-17. Hopefully we see some good things from Tyson Bagent, just things you can build off of and not just let this be a wasted game. And, honestly, that's how I'm kind of viewing this one, week 7 at Soldier Field. But I hope, just from Bryant here, Bears will win ugly. Let's see it happen. Let's see a win in this for this Bears team. They haven't had a lot of those over the last calendar year.
No, they have not. We can count them on a hand. I don't even think we get a full hand. So that's just where we're at.
Well, before you go on to your final segments, I would like to shout out Adam for saying Braggs is chiseled like a Greek god. Had to point that out. But also, I had to give you guys my game prediction because we just put out our predictions as a team. We're all not doing that great this year. This is a very hard team to predict, I think, overall, week to week. And I think a lot of us are predicting with our hearts on our sleeves, especially to start the season. But I do have the Bears winning this game. And it's for the sole reason that the only thing the Bears have ever done consistently in our lifetimes, the three of us, is have a quarterback controversy. So
True.
That's literally the only reason I got him winning. It does line up with Brian Hoyer, the backup quarterback being in. Not that Jimmy G is some great, godsend quarterback, but at the same time, at home, playing the Raiders backup quarterback. Bears defense played pretty well last week. Now you have Tyson Bagent coming in. This city loves nothing more than their backup quarterbacks, and they have for decades. So I'm going chaos. Bears winning this game this Sunday.
There we go. Greg going with the Bears. So that's chaos. Chaos. I like a lot. So for my prediction real quick to kind of wrap this thing up, and it's funny because there's that comment about Bears win ugly, and underneath my score prediction, my very first line is, this game will not be pretty. Like, it's just not going to be one of those pretty games, but I do expect it to be a close game. And again, you talked about the best player kind of like on each side of the ball thing. And I think that's a great way to look at it. I just expect the Bears offense to struggle more against that Raiders defense than I would expect the Raiders offense to struggle, especially in the red zone against this Chicago Bears defense. So, without the hope in that red zone defense to keep them out of the end zone, and the fact that you can't stop anyone inside the 20, it's just going to be enough to cost the Bears the game here regardless. So I'm going to go a low scoring game, but Raiders 17, Bears 13. Did you do a score?
What did I say? 2017 Raiders.
2017. There we go. See, maybe I thought it was like a year, 2013, no, 2017. But so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. And really, the one thing I know about this team, and then I know Greg had a good point about the quarterbacks too, but they're not going to make it easy regardless. Like, they're going to have our hopes up. Like, there's going to be a time where you think they're going to be in this thing. Maybe it's for the majority of this game until the end. But it's just going to be painful. Like that Vikings game, man, like I didn't expect it to be another easy game by any means. I didn't even know if they were going to win or not, but man, it was a hard watch. Just like how the game kind of flowed and really just how the Bears and those football games tend to go. It's so different than almost any other NFL game that I watch. It's just a different kind of product.
Yeah, it was funny because at the tailgate, I was talking to Greg. I'm like, have the Bears just make this one easy. So, going into the fourth quarter, that the Bears are just going to hang on, whatever it is. And obviously that was not the case. But yeah, that's come to be expected. And Bears fans, this. Like, it's a struggle. It's a battle watching these Bears play every Sunday, knowing the roller coaster ride that you're about to go on, whether you want to or not. That's the Bears. That is watching this team for years now. And again, expect the same thing on Sunday with two backup quarterbacks. The Bears are not going to make this easy. It's not going to be pretty, like you said, Will, but we're going to watch. We're going to watch. We're going to go through the ups and downs, and, I have them losing at the end, but win ugly. See if you can win ugly. And it's a very winnable game, but this is the Bears. And that's the most important thing you got to remember when you're watching every Sunday.
The only thing about the Bears, I don't even think they win that Commanders game. Unfortunately, if Dick Butkus didn't pass away, I feel like that. I feel like that news, and the NFL in general, you can't have the Bears lose when something like that happens, because they want to run all these packages of commemorating this guy and what a Hall of Famer and an amazing person and a top-notch linebacker, and you can't lose then. But outside of that, they haven't won a game since early on last season. So I just don't expect them to find a way to get it done here this week. My confidence meter, by the way, is at a 4. Just going to your point, the Raiders they're not a great team. I just feel again, it's always the Bears versus the opponent and the Bears versus themselves. So it's always 2 games in one. But for those reasons, I'm at a 4.
Yeah, I didn't even have a confidence thing, but it's probably at a 3. For the Bears, but it's just coaching too, man. Every time, I wonder when do the Bears ever have the coaching advantage? And it probably in any of these games, none, except for the Commanders for some reason. But it's the outlier, right? It's the one outlier that showed some positives from the Bears. So when you don't have your players in the right position, prepared, executing right, it doesn't matter who you have on the field. It's just not going to go your way. So.
Yeah. Real quick, I zoomed in at my browser to look at you because I thought I saw something behind you. So you have one of those things you can buy an Etsy or something of you and Stephanie, and you're like Spider-Man. Is that what I see?
Let's see if I can get this.
And everything falls.
So yeah, Stephanie made this little Spider-Man kind of.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I saw that in the background. I was like, that looks like Nick. I'm like, that I know that's Nick. And I had to zoom in. I'm like, that's Stephanie. Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah,
is that a multiverse thing? Like the Spider-Verse thing?
I think so. I think that's where it was. I don't know exactly, but I mean,
yeah, that's really cool. I love custom gifts like that. Yeah. So wait, she made that?
I think she bought it off of somewhere where you can customize, put a photo. I don't know how exactly it worked, but I was like, that's really cool. So that's, put it in. It's
like when I got Simpsons for Father's Day this year. And that was really cool. Like a whole family photo on the Simpsons couch. So yeah, that was really cool. Thanks for sharing that here at the end of the show. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, this is always outside the tailgates. Our show is the positive about the Bears that I, really enjoy doing. So regardless of how this Bears team does for the rest of the season, we're going to be here previewing each and every game. So you already know that, but just thank you for everyone watching, engaging in the chat, hanging out with us on, your Friday afternoon. So we really appreciate you, but let's see again, can the Bears win ugly?
There we go. I couldn't say it any better myself, but I hope you guys have a great time at the tailgate. Just letting everyone know I cannot make it here this week. We're doing a huge web upgrade to the CHGO website, which is a project that I've been manning for months with all the all-city websites. This weekend is CHGO, which I'm excited to show everyone the new website on Monday. So definitely be checking that one out. But unfortunately, that work is something that is going to take literally my entire weekend. As soon as this broadcast ends until probably Sunday at 2 a.m., I'm going to be sitting here at this computer working on that project. So I have the Bears game in the background, which will surely make time go faster and make me feel better about my life. Wink, not. But I just want to thank everyone, like you said there, Nick, for being here in the chat, listening at home, whatever you're doing. You took the time to hang out with us, and we really do appreciate it. Of course, well, everyone else will see you at the tailgate. Nick's going to be at Soldier Field covering things at the game, and the guys are going to have you covered pregame, postgame, with all the amazing coverage that you've come to expect here from CHGO. But I'll see you next week. But until next time, bear down, Chicago.
We all silly like the mayor.